welcome to the latest episode of the Scifi and Fanty Show. We don't have a tagline.
We're making it up as we go along.
I'm Shaun.
I'm Trish.
And tonight we are going to just do a quick episode on the Hugo Awards, which you may recall were a thing that were announced. I think like a week ago from today. We're doing this impromptu because we needed to come up with a new episode, and it seemed logical that we should talk about it, given that one of our number and many friends and people we like happen to be on the ballot. So there we go. So I think the big thing that I want us to get, we're just going to skip a lot of the traditional script and just like dive right in. And I think, if you don't mind, Trish, I want to make sure all of the fan awards get more attention than anything else.
Yep, sure.
So
that makes sense.
Could we rip the Band-Aid right off at the moment and note that one of our numbers is in a category? Again.
Yes. And well-deservedly so. Paul Weimer is a member of the editing staff of Nerds of a Feather, which is a blog, and I don't think they do podcast, although at least one of their number does podcasts on their own. But as far as I know, they're just a blog, they're a very good blog. And they are Hugo nominated, and so that means Paul is Hugo nominated. Or Hugo finalist, I should say.
Yeah, and they're alongside a bunch of other names that I think a lot of us have seen before and are also well-deserving. Ancillary Review of Books, an unofficial Hugo Book Club bug. We're actually going to talk to them very soon here. Galactic Journey, Intergalactic Mixtape by Renee, Journey Planet. So a lot of very familiar but also wonderful names. And I will just remind everybody that at this point, Paul Weimer has spent 10 years arguing with me about Hugo, how many Hugo things he has. And at this point, he has more Hugo pins and actual rockets than any combination of other Scifi and Fanty person combined. So, congratulations, friend. He's in chat right now, and he can't say nothing. Neener. But seriously, congratulations to all these folks. It's good to see blogs and sort of like traditional fanzines and other things all kind of together in one spot. It makes me happy.
Right, we have some returning people. I think most of them are returning to this category. Journey Planet, Galactic Journey. I think unofficial Hugo Book Club blog has been there before. I think Ancillary Review of Books has been there before. And I think this is the second year, maybe, for Renee's Intergalactic Mixtape. Anyway, I've read all of these, and they are all certainly things
Paul says
that
no,
people
Renee
in fandom should... Renee is new? Okay, congratulations to Renee. All very worthy fan community projects that people in fandom should be paying attention to.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about briefly the category we have been finalists in the past, which would be your fan cast category. And this year it's A Meal of Thorns, Eating the Fantastic, Hugo Girl, Octothorpe, The Coot Street Podcast, and World Building for Masochists. A lot of very familiar names. I think almost everybody here has been on this ballot before. And so it'll be very interesting to see how it goes this year. Is it going to do a repeat? Is it going to be new stuff? But I think the thing I would just say is it's a lot of interviews, and with the exception of Octothorpe, which is more conversation, and that gets World Building for Masochists, which is a different kind of conversation. And then A Meal of Thorns is, I think, the one that is the most interesting in terms of being a different type of content, because it is sort of very critical analysis and discussion of books, which I really like, along with Hugo Girl, which is also doing the same thing, but with a focus, right? So
Right, yeah, Jake Casella-Brookins with A Meal of Thorns usually, I think, has a guest star on and someone in the writing or critical community, and they usually have a topic or book or something that they are talking about. It's not just a wide-ranging interview, although, of course, things come into it. Yeah, and that's usually very interesting to listen to. Scott Edelman, he's been known for years for Eating the Fantastic, but he's just been nominated, I think, for the last couple of... Maybe he's been being nominated for longer, but in the last year or so, he has significantly upgraded his audio quality, and so now it's a pleasure to listen to rather than cringing through all the table noises and other conversations in the restaurant. Hugo Girl has been on several times before. Octothorpe won 2 years ago and recused themselves last year. I'm trying to remember who won last year. Code Street has been nominated many times and has probably won. Sorry, what?
Isn't Hugo Girl? Didn't they win last year? Am I incorrect?
They have won. I'm pretty sure. Let me see who won last year. Sorry, I know it's noisy.
You're mimicking Paul. The keyboard
I can't help.
Of the ages.
This keyboard
the Diana
was a
Wynne
gift.
Jones podcast
I did not
one.
deliberately buy a clickety keyboard. It's just, it was given to me, and I appreciate the equipment I was given.
Yeah. It's the Diana Wynne Jones podcast was the one that won last year. So.
That's right. Right, yeah. And those are fun to listen to, but all of these are a bit more generalized than those were. Right.
I do want to just make one small note before we move forward. But I just find this very interesting. There were 370 ballots cast, which, hey guys, vote more in these fan categories or else. But it was for 198 nominees, which means that average is less than 2 per podcast. Obviously, they say the finalist range is 31 to 69 in terms of the total ballots, so there are a lot that probably got one, or a lot must have got one nomination. But I that means there's so many shows that could be nominated.
It's amazing. There's about 200 podcasts out there that at least a couple of people think are Hugo Award worthy, and wow, that's so great. So many people doing, excited about science fiction and fantasy and horror and whatever, or role-playing games. Who knows? I'm sure there's a very wide variety of topics among those 200-ish nominees.
Definitely.
The finalists range from 31 to 69 nominations. And so that's a wide variety of shows that at least 30 to 70 people think are great and are award-worthy. And of course, I'm sad that Skiffy and Fanti did not make it this year. I will again be very curious to see where it is on the list of finalists.
We will never be a finalist again. List. We will never be one again. That's just a fact. It'll never happen. We will never win a Hugo because they know it will cost $6 million to get a Hugo trophy for all of the members of this show. And so there's a conspiracy to prevent us from ever being nominated as a finalist.
I mean, if you use that criteria, there's a lot of people who would never be allowed to win who are.
Yeah, I know. Strange Horizons could never be nominated. I tease.
But I mean, we do this for the joy of it. We do it because we love science fiction and fantasy and speculative fiction and games and movies and everything in general. We love this stuff. We love talking about it. We love holding up what's good and what's exciting and new, and sometimes the classics. There's so much to talk about, and so, we're not doing it for a rocket, although we'd love a rocket, but we're doing it for the love of the genre.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah. Okay, let's jump forward. So, other fan categories. Best fan writer. We have J.J. Brentner, Alex Brown, James Davis Nichol, Rosanna Pendlebury, Jason Sanford, and Orhan Weston are our finalists for this category. I'm familiar with like about half of these names, at least I would say pretty familiar with them. And there are a few names that are a little bit newer to me, but I think it's very interesting to have kind of a little different group of names in here and also some familiar ones. And obviously Jason Sanford is he's a man after my own heart because of his, actually kind of after your own heart because of your journalism background. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, he does deep analyses of trends and keeps track of things that are happening in publishing and in fandom, and he brings a lot of value. But so do some of the others.
Sure.
Orhan Weston, I don't know if that's how you pronounce their name, but I do know they write good stuff. Rosanna Pendlebury has very good, interesting columns. James Davis Nichol, I've been on panels with. He is very insightful. Alex Brown also. The only person I'm unfamiliar with here is J.J. Brantner, a.k.a. Tarvol. So I look forward to finding out more about them. Sorry, I don't know. More about them once the packets come out, because I haven't had time to look them up yet, really.
Yeah, definitely I'm curious. It looks like probably reviews would be my guess, but I'm very curious about some of the names I'm not as familiar with and what they're interested in. It's a good list, and I don't know. It's hard to pick like who's best fan writer because there are like 10 trillion of us on social media. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, here we have 158 nominees, which is about 3/4 of the nominees for fan casts. Finalists vote nominations ranged from 22 to 54, so a little less than for the fan casts. I guess it's just easier to have your podcatcher downloading stuff than to go out and look for new fan writers. Or
Very
maybe
possible.
People just prefer listening to podcasts while they're doing stuff than just sitting down and reading reviews or whatever. But
I wonder,
still, great that there's so many people out there writing about stuff.
I would be very curious to look at past ballots to see if there's a statistical shift that occurs once social media basically takes over as the dominant space. I don't know if that's true, but it'd be interesting to look at. Jason Sanford, this is your next idea. So best fan artist is Terry Ash, Geneva Bauer, Sarah Felix, Richard Mann, Espana Sheriff, and Yume, who I'm really a fan of Yume, so that was exciting. And I know Sarah's art is also really fun. And then a bunch of names here that I have seen before, but I don't know enough about their work. But it's a cool ballot, and best fan artist is always really, really fun. So congratulations to all of them. This is wonderful.
Yeah, once again, a few names I've seen before on this ballot. A few people I'm really not familiar with. They may have been here before, but they have not impressed themselves on my memory. So, let's see. 137 nominees again, so almost as many as for fan writer. Nominations dropping down from 12 to 22. So, yeah, I mean, I honestly, for fan artist, I copied what my sister had nominated because I haven't had time to look up.
Well, we should mention that Renee runs this massive spreadsheet that you can check out every year, which I will say when I have voted nominated in the past is incredibly useful. And I think there was like a move to see if that could get nominated for like best related work at some point, and I understand entirely.
Yeah. It's best related work nomination for this year.
Oh, it's there!
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I just noticed it's there. So
it is
the Hugo spreadsheet of Dune, maintained by Renee. So very cool.
Right. Mm-hmm. I know some people are being huffy and saying this is not a creative work, this is just a spreadsheet. But, it's best related work, not best related creative endeavor. Some people think this category should just be for nonfiction books about SF topics or something. But it's what it functionally has become is the catch-all category for
True.
Whatever people think is worth nominating that doesn't fit into one of the other categories. And in fact, there's a thing that I nominated for both best related work and in another category because I didn't know which one to fit in.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, so I think that, Octothorpe actually had someone on it arguing that they should have disallowed this for best related, and I disagree with that. I think the judges are correct, not corrupt, not this year. The judges are correct for choosing to obey the will of the nominators, and the voters can decide what they want to do with that.
Can I just say, I just need to say this. If you had asked me like 10 years ago, or even a few years ago before this last election, like, Shaun, what are your strong opinions? Even last year, I might have had more strong opinions about Hugo stuff. I gotta be honest. I don't give a shit about all of the little drama, like, this thing doesn't belong in the category. Like, mother bananas. We're literally facing a fucking war in Iran. Right, we've got a lunatic in the Oval Office, right? We've got all this shit happening in the world. The amount of energy I have for this fandom drama bullshit is gone. I've lost all of it. I may have opinions and it'll affect how I vote, but I just don't give a fuck about the arguments anymore. They don't matter, guys. There is more important shit that we could be spending our time on. And I'm not going to waste my fucking time. I'm sorry, I'm ranting at this point. I apologize, Trish. But I'm not going to waste my fucking time arguing about this shit that in no way has any meaningful impact on my day-to-day life. I'm just not. I can't do it anymore.
Yeah. It's really hard. And, I see people apologizing all the time for promoting their book or whatever when there are horrible things going on in the world. And I understand the impulse to apologize, but at the same time, we have to focus on, first of all, what brings us joy in our lives, which helps us to keep going. And second of all, visions of hope for the future, visions of how people deal with social problems in various contexts. This stuff is important, but at the same time, you can go overboard with the arguments about what is proper. I think we all need to give each other some grace and trust each other a little bit.
Let's just take a break from it. Like, a bunch of people got nominated. Yay.
Let's not get mad about stuff. Let's not be exclusionary and mad about what other people are celebrating.
Yeah. So I will mention, since we're talking joy things, I will say that something that it makes me happy is that this year there is a best poem category, which I will just note, I misspoke. There is a second member of our number that is nominated because Brandon O'Brien is on the best poem category. And I will say I am friends with one other individual on here, Mari Ness, who is a brilliant writer and also a lot of fun at parties.
And hasn't Jennifer
I should
Brozek
say hanging out at the pool is what I mean by that. Mari, I think once has been on. I can't remember.
Jennifer Brozek? Hasn't she been on?
Well, but she's not in the poetry category. Oh, but no, Jennifer Brozek is in the editor category. You are correct.
That's right. Yeah.
I have to ask her, does she consider herself a member of our number?
She?
She's got to be. She's been on the show
enough. She's in our
enough.
Discord. She's been on the show.
It's
so,
free.
Yeah,
you know what?
I think she counts.
Eat it, right? The Skiffy and Fanny show snuck on the ballot. What are you going to do about it? I'm just kidding. Yes, you're right. Anyway, the poem, though. The best poem category is a category that I'm really grateful for because speculative poetry, I think, deserves more attention. And I think getting poems on this ballot, not via like some collection or whatever that's in best related work, but in its own special category, I think is going to draw more attention to this particular form. So I'm excited for it. There's a lot of great names on here. I mean, big names in terms of like the fiction and poetry world. And so I'm super excited to see who wins this year, and best of luck to all of them.
Right. This is one where I did really put in the work. I went to Renee's spreadsheet and I read out of the 60 poems that were listed there, about 55 were online, somewhere that I could find them. And I read all of those before I decided what to nominate for them. And wow, there are a lot of great poets out there. It's hard narrowing it down to my favorite 6. Yeah, so some of these, all of these are people, no, all but one are people whom I have read other stuff by before. And the one that I hadn't read was one of my favorites. And I see there were 229 nominees in this category. And that's awesome! So many good writers with fascinating ideas, and the way that they choose to focus things and highlight them with their carefully crafted words and lines and phrases, and the themes that they highlight, the way that they highlight them. It's a gloriously creative field, and I am super in favor of making this a permanent category. And that's one reason I put a lot of attention and care into my nominations for this category, because I want to see it become permanent on the Hugo ballot. And I know it's a long ballot already, but
you know what?
This deserves it.
Let's just joy. We're just celebrating joy this year. You know what? Yeah. The Hugo Awards ceremony can go for 15 hours this year. Just everyone just has to live with it. Okay, but because I don't want us to get lost too far, let's talk about the bottom parts of the ballot, which are not Hugo Award stuff. So there's the Lodestar for best YA book. That's got Among Ghosts by Rachel Hartman, Coffee Shop in an Alternate Universe by C.B. Lee, Holy Terrors by Margaret Owen, Oathbound by Tracy Dion, who we've actually interviewed before, which is wonderful. Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins, which I understand why that's there, because it's also in the movies. And They Bloom at Night by Tang Tran. The middle name is the one that's getting me, but I will try to get myself corrected if we talk about this again. But yeah, really cool name. And I just gotta say, seeing Vietnamese folks on ballot, bring them all. 169
nominees here for Lodestar Best YA Book. I have read none of them. There have been several years when I've read up to half of the nominees, not this year. But one thing I'm impressed by is the variety of publishing houses also. Yeah. Random House, Fywell and Friends, which I've never heard of. Is it indie? I don't know. Hotterscape, Simon & Schuster, Scholastic, and Bloomsbury. And it's great to see that variety of publishers as well as the writers themselves.
Yeah, very much so. It's very fun. And then there's the Astounding Award, Best New Writer, which has someone we've interviewed, Sophie Burnham, who's wonderful and great to hear. Camilla Cole is on here, Antonia Hodgson, Molly O'Neill, H.H. Pack, and Jared Peshacek?
Something like that. Sorry.
I need to get that name
Feel
right.
Feel free to send us a sound file, but...
happy to be corrected, yeah.
Right. Yeah, I've read at least half of these nominees. I think maybe 4 of them. And the ones I haven't, I've heard good things about, and I'm excited to get the opportunity later in the year to read these people, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see. Now, what did this one say? 156 nominees. So yeah, a lot of these fan and, non-Big Four things, just 156 nominees, but that's 150 to 200 nominees. That's pretty exciting, really, to see how many people, works of art, our fan community, our Hugo nominating community, the breadth of the field that they are finding worthy to nominate.
Good for them indeed. Then further up the ballot, I guess we just keep moving now up towards the top. Sure. I will just say that I am super thankful that the Hugo Awards have, in the semi-prosing category, not thrown a fit about having all the names present, because that is a lot of names present, and so A+. And there are some very familiar names here. Escape Pod is here, which is an audio fiction podcast of science fiction. There's Correo magazine, which is digital print fiction, and is fantastic work. On Spec is on this, and I suspect a part of the reason they're here is because, if I'm correct, they have announced that they are closing publication.
Right.
And so that's their last year.
And so this was basically their last chance to get a nomination. And I know that the unofficial Hugo Book Club was campaigning for their nomination, basically. And, it's the Canadian magazine of the fantastic, so it hasn't come my way. But I'm very happy to give it a read, whatever they put in the packet, and see how it stacks up against the rest of the stuff.
Absolutely.
Most of the others on here, I've seen here multiple times before.
Yeah. Strange Horizons, Deadlands, Uncanny Magazine. Uncanny has been on here 450,000 times. They make great work, just to be clear, but they do great at this
work.
Point, they should just put it there and say, now nominate other people.
Well, if they were still in a fan category, I would say yes. I'm not quite sure how to apply that to semi-pro. Should people recuse themselves for semi-pro? I don't know.
I think it's murky.
But yeah, I'm happy to see. Yeah. I'm happy to see all the others too. Several of the others have won before. You
can't argue with the quality here of this.
Oh, no, you definitely can't argue at all with the quality here. Here we have 93 nominees, which, it's a lot harder to put together a semi-pro zine than a fan cast. Well, it's harder to get a regular publishing schedule and stuff like that for a semi-pro zine than a podcast, which basically you can put up on your own blog if you're dedicated enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Best Professional Artist is the next one up on the ballot. That has Lulu Chen, Kelly Chong, Dave Kellett, Tran Nguyen, John Picasso, and Tom Roberts. Some names I'm very familiar with. Tran Nguyen is really good. And there are a couple names here that I didn't know, and I'm glad to see them here. Like Lulu Chen, I've probably seen their work, but they're new to me, so I'm excited for that.
Right. Yeah, same here. Obviously, some we've seen before, some who have won before. Picasso, for example, I'm pretty sure has won, and has been on the ballot quite a few times. But let's see again, 220 nominees. Good for all the people who made the effort to nominate in this category. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for those that don't know, Tran Nguyen has done a bunch of stuff for Tor. It's just some really cool artwork for Tor book covers. They're just very good. So,
okay.
7 million points. Anyway, sorry.
Sure.
Further up the ballot, you want to do a long form? Who's on long form?
Best Editor, long form. Carl Engel Laird, Jamie Goh, Lee Harris, Jenny Hill, Joe Monty, Diana Foe. Apologies to anyone whose name I mangled. But yeah, several of the people here I recognize. I know some of the stuff they've done. A couple of less familiar names to me. Here we had 95 nominees. Best Editor, either category, it's a little hard to say, what they actually did for the books that they read. Really, all I can do as a reader is look at, what they have put out, what they have had their hands on at all.
Trish, this is the obligatory how to understand the Best Editor long form category. We should just put a signpost here because every year everybody's like, I don't know. How do you vote in this category? Magic. You go outside and you basically look at the stars and you see if the alignment of the stars will give you the answer. That is how we do it.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Now, I think there is slightly more in the Best Editor short form, because most of these are magazines and anthologies that these editors have had a personal hand in selecting. I don't know how much for the long form. It's just what the luck of the draw is that comes to you this year, that you put your energy into it. But for Best Editor short form, there's also obviously a whole lot of curation that goes into the job. And you can see from the, stories that they pick what they are doing with that curation. And so I feel like that's a little less opaque than long form. Anyway, let me put the names here. Best Editor short form, Scott Andrews, Jennifer Brosak, friend of the show, member of the show, Neil Clark, Lee Harris, Michael Damian Thomas, and Sheila Williams. And all of these names are known to me, and I'll just have to see what they're proud of for this last year.
And then we go above that, we get our best game. Yeah. Oh, good. Okay, yeah. Oh, that's a lot of nominees, too. Above that, we get best game or interactive work, and that one is one that was recently sort of permanent alive, done to the ballot. And we've got Blueprints, Citizen Sleeper 2, Claire Obscure, which I heard 1,000 things about, Dispatch, Hades 2, and Hollow Knight. As I recall, Hades won previously, so
I think so.
I'm very curious. Well, I didn't play Hades 2, but Hades 1 was very, very good. I imagine Hades 2 is really good. It's an interesting list, and I want to say that Claire Obscure is probably, from what I can tell, like their most mainstream game that's on this list. A lot of the other ones are games that are very popular, but they are considerably more, I want to say, indie in a loose sense, that they don't have like a Battlefield 6 or whatever kind of like AAA kind of thing, whereas Claire Obscure was just kind of everywhere. And so that's always been my interest in the game category, is you often hear about some games you otherwise probably wouldn't have heard about if you follow mainstream gaming. So, yeah.
Sorry, I was just checking the chat.
It's Paul being adorable.
So for best game, I'm not a gamer. I'm not a video gamer myself. I play TTRPG type stuff. But I watch people's playthroughs, and I've seen Blueprints, Citizen Sleeper 2, and Dispatch, and I think all of those are great games. I don't know the other three, but I've heard people talking about them a lot. I'm happy that this is on the ballot. It made it onto the ballot permanently a couple of years ago, and I think it's a very valuable addition to our Hugo recognition of excellence.
So above, we get to Best Dramatic Presentation Short Form, and I hope that you don't mind that we kind of go through these a little quicker than usual, especially the long form, just because I don't know. So best dramatic presentation short form is shows you've probably heard of unless you forgot that show was running. So there's Doctor Who, Murderbot is on here twice, Pluribus is on here, and Severance is on here. And then, if like me, you didn't realize they were still making The Wheel of Time, that is on here. And I completely forgot The Wheel of Time is being made.
It is no longer being made. Its third season was its final season. Not planned that way, but the network canceled it. I nominated that episode, among others. I'm really excited that there's only one Doctor Who on the ballot, and there's a wide variety of things, of networks, and, well, it's a lot of Apple TV, actually.
Apple TV's killing it.
Apple TV 3 times, 4 times.
Four times.
Amazon and BBC One. So, yay to Apple TV for making some really excellent science fiction and fantasy shows.
Yeah.
And yay to Wheel of Time yay to Amazon Prime Video for sticking with Wheel of Time for 3 seasons. I think it got better every season, so I'm sad to see it go, but at least we got a really amazing 3rd season on that. I'm going to have a real hard time figuring out what is on the top of my ballot this year. Some really great stuff here.
I mean, it's Murderbot for me, so. So, long form, we have Andor Season 2, Frankenstein, the Guillermo del Toro film, K-pop Demon Hunters, which was obviously very popular, Mickey 17 by Bong Joon-ho, which was interesting, Sinners, which I still haven't seen yet, but I've heard great and amazing things, and Trish will now lambaste me for not having seen it yet, and then obviously James Gunn's Superman made it. And I think the big thing I want to say here is that this is such a weird list. It's, you know, a TV show, Star Wars being serious, revolutionary stuff. And then you've got basically another version of a story that's been made into film like 87,000 times by a very different director who honestly is kind of exciting to see him do it. Then you have a thing that is referencing K-pop, right, which is fun. And then you've got a Korean film starring a British actor doing weird sci-fi stuff. Then you've got Sinners, which is sort of alt history, horror, vampire-y, terrible stuff. And then you've got a superhero movie that isn't a Marvel film.
Yeah, it's all over the place. I have seen half of them, and they were all good. I'd be happy to see any individual one win in a normal year, but man, I loved Andor so much, start to finish, and a long series like that has a bunch of perfect episodes that build on each other and come to an amazing climax. It's so relevant to our message. That one just has to be the top for me, despite how much I love Sinners, which is a fantastic movie. And yes, you should see it when you get time. But there are several others I haven't even seen in this. So, you know, it's a great list, and I hope I get a chance to see the others.
Yeah, sure.
I have read a book by the author of the book, Mickey 17, and I thought that was interesting and good. What was it? Something, Mal Goes to War. Right, Mal Goes to War is about an AI who is kind of watching a battle among humans happen, and then he gets trapped on the battlefield and has to try to, or I guess it gets trapped on the battlefield among all these crazy, icky humans and has to deal with them and stuff.
Okay.
But, that's not Mickey 17. That's just by that same author. But, you know, I bet the movie will be interesting. So yeah. Yay. 149.
So best related work.
Best related, we already mentioned the Hugo Spreadsheet of Doom. Others include Colorfield's Writing About Science Fiction, Paul Kincaid. Inventing the Renaissance by Ada Palmer, another one that someone on Octothorpe said didn't belong in best related work, and it is very much a history book. I have heard people argue passionately that it qualifies for best related work because it's sort of about world building and that it's about how people interpret how they want to see the Renaissance. There again, I have my opinion, but I think the judges were right to not throw it off the ballot because a lot of people felt that it was worth nominating. So, again, let the general votership decide.
Yeah.
Other books. Last War in Albion, The Cuddled Little Vice, referring to Sandman by Elizabeth Sandifer. That's actually available online. It is book length, but it's available free online if you want to read it. James Davis Nichol put out a list of all the stuff you can read for free online. So check out his blog if you want to get a roundup of links to the short stories and novelettes and all the other things that you can find online for free so far.
Yeah.
If you don't want to wait for the packet. Also, Punitive Obsession, The Life and Times of Octavia Butler by Susanna Morris, and Ragnarok versus the Long Night by Ashaya and Aziz. And that's History of Westeros podcast. So we have 3 books and a book-length blog post and a podcast and the spreadsheet. Those are the finalists for best related work.
Yeah. I definitely, one of these books, well, 2 of them are particular favorites of mine. One would be Colorfields by Paul Kincaid, because what I have read of it is very interesting, and I don't own the book in physical form yet because tariffs. So there's that. And then Positive Obsession. We actually interviewed Susanna Morris on the show last year about Positive Obsession, so if you want to find it, it's not that hard to find. And that book I thought was obviously very important because it's covering an author of, I consider at this point to be canonical, and doing so in a very different way, looking at a more personal life history, sort of. And I just thought it was a very interesting approach to talking about Octavia Butler that took a different way to get to the history of who she was. So, it's good.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right. Best graphic story or comic?
Or comic. 243 nominees. The finalists range between 19 and 42 nominations. So we have Absolute Wonder Woman, Volume 1, A Girl and Her Fed, A Wizards of Earthsea, a graphic novel, The Invisible Parade, The Power Fantasy Volume 1, The Superpowers, and The Space Cat. I see Ned Okorafor wrote that last graphic novel or whatever it is, so she's on the ballot twice this year, also for Best Novel. Obviously, Wonder Woman, a lot of women know who she is. I'm sure that a lot of people will vote for A Wizard of Earthsea just because of the history. I'll read whatever's in the packet. I don't have any knowledge of what's gonna be really good. But, I mean, obviously, without knowing anything about it, I bet that Wonder Woman and Earthsea are gonna be the favorites going in just because a lot of people know what those are. But I hope that people will keep open minds as they read everything else.
Yeah, very possible. It's hard to say. It's an interesting ballot. I can't really speak to... I just don't read enough graphic nothing anymore. So it's hard for me to know. Obviously, one that we looked at, Free Planet, didn't make the ballot, but that's okay. Life goes on. But it's interesting. So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just briefly mention best series because we're going to have to mention these works later anyway. But best series is an interesting one, a way of recognizing continuous work in the same universe. We have Emily Wilde by Heather Fawcett, October Day by Shaun and McGuire, Old Man's War by John Scalzi, because he's continued that, The Chronicles of Ozrith by Catherine Addison, The Craft Wars by Max Gladstone, and White Space by Elizabeth Bear. Some very big names and familiar names, and it's a ballot that makes sense, and that's what I will say about it. Yeah.
Several of these writers have had their universes nominated before, several times.
Yeah.
I've actually read I've read at least a book in 4 of these universes. I haven't read any of The White Space by Elizabeth Bear, but I've read other Elizabeth Bear that I liked. The only one I'm totally unfamiliar with is the Emily Wilde by Heather Fawcett. Some of these are more my favorites than others. I wouldn't be mad about any of these winning, however. The Chronicles of Ozrith, that's the Goblin Emperor universe for anyone like me who didn't... Ozrith, what's that?
Yeah, a very, very important fantasy novel that has continued now as a series. Yeah. So, short story... just so we can keep moving. We've got 10 Visions of the Future or Self-Care for the End Days by Samantha Mills. In My Country by Thomas Ha, who we interviewed actually last year. Laser Eyes Ain't Everything by Effie Seiberg. Missing Helen by Tia Tashiro. 6 People to Revise You by J.R. Dawson. And Wire Mother by Isabel J. Kim, which is actually a story I have read and is very good. And In My Country I read also, I should just say.
549 nominees. I believe that's the most we've seen. Let's see. There's one story that I know for sure that I've read that I liked a lot, which was 6 People to Revise You. I think I've read Wire Mother. I remember the title, but not the story. And so... I don't know. I'll read them all before I vote. Obviously, I don't have any, I'll have to see what they look like before I make up my mind. Let's see. 1, 2, Clark's World. 1, 2, Uncanny.
3 Clark's World, 2 Uncanny, 1 Diabolical Plots. Yeah.
Right. Well, Maybe those 3 just had great years for their magazines.
Well, I will just say that if you are being published in a print magazine, your day of being nominated for a Hugo has basically disappeared because they are no longer showing up.
Nope. Yeah.
This is actually, we don't have a lot of time to talk about it, but maybe we need to do a podcast about it. But it's something that we have talked about on the show before when we talked about the Hugos, and it is something I'm sure other people have observed, but there has to be something said about the fact that every single still running print magazine has basically failed to meet the 21st century's digital needs for delivery of magazines. And the result is that they have largely disappeared from the cultural conversation in science fiction. I almost never hear anybody talk about Asimov's FNSF and Analog except in writing circles and as historical objects. That there's almost no discussion. Like when people talk about stories, it's like, hey, that was in Clark's World, or that was in the Deadlands, or that was in Uncanny, or whatever. We should absolutely probably do a whole conversation about why we think that happened. I think it's sad, just to be clear, but
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. I know I have either Asimov or Analog. Yeah, Asimov's science fiction has a sort of podcast where they put out like one story every 3 months or so. And so, as far as I know, that's the extent of their online free publication. And so, unless those stories are just amazing and get talked about by everybody, they're not going to get nominated. And that's sad.
Yeah. And when you look at Novelette, which is, Novelette's the next category. And when you look at Novelette, right? It's Uncanny, Clark's World, Reactor, Uncanny, right? It's similar names, right? We have Kaiju Agonistas by Scott Lynch, Never Eaten Vegetables by H.H. Pack, who also is in the Best New Writer category. Rapport, Friendship, Solidarity, Communion, Empathy by Martha Wells. The Girl That My Mother Is Leaving Me For by Cameron Reed. The Millet Illusion by Sarah Pinsker, I love Sarah Pinsker, so, and When He Calls Your Name by Catherine M. Valente. And again, all digital magazines, one of which is renamed itself so that it is not being associated with the publisher that actually owns it, but, still. Yeah. And a great list, just to be clear. It is a wonderful list that,
Right. I've only read one of these that I, unless there's something that I read and forgot, which would be sad. But, so I'm going to have some reading to do in this category. But yeah, I'd like to see more novelette creators being nominated here, but so it goes.
It's a great category, though.
Just one thing, best short story, none of those were original to a book collection or anthology.
Yeah.
They're all online magazines.
Right.
So if you want to get nominated, unless you get republished in some online magazine that same year, you're probably not going to get a nomination.
Yeah, it's wild to think about, But, many of these names, they've been published in the print magazines. I'm sure some of them are still publishing in them, but the work they're being nominated for now are for their online stuff. Sarah Pinsker has been nominated in the past for stuff in print, I believe Asimov's, if I'm correct. And Pinsker's fabulous, just to be clear. I freaking adore Pinsker's short fiction. Pinsker's great. Also good novelist, just to be clear, but I've read more the short stories than that. And there's just great names here. These are folks that, even if some of these stories may end up being maybe not my favorite of the ones they released in that year, the fact of the matter is a lot of these folks are people that I think are probably going to have an impact for a while. Some possibly more than others, but I don't want to predict. So.
All right, and on to novella, 172 nominees. The finalists are Automatic Noodle by Annalee Newitz, Cinder House by Freya Marska, Murder My Memory by Olivia Waite, The River Has Roots by Amal El-Matar, The Summer War by Naomi Novik, and What Stops the Deep by T. Kingfisher. Again, apologize if I mangled anybody's name. I've read 4 of these.
Yep.
So
I figured.
Go me. In fact,
5.
I've reviewed 3 of them for Skiffy and
excellent.
Fanty. Yeah.
And 5 of them from Tor, just to remember. So.
Yeah. Only one of them by Del Rey. That's Naomi Novik's Summer War. And right. I haven't read that. I haven't read Cinder House by Freya. But I look forward to hopefully seeing them in the packet. We'll see.
Yep.
Well, I could look up Cinder House whenever I want.
I have a question. I don't expect an answer at this moment, but maybe if somebody listening to this later has the answer. I know that people have talked about the Tor dominates in the novella category thing. And some aspect of that is it's Tor, right? But my question is not about why does Tor win and all is always in these categories. My question would be, Tor has now been doing this for a long time. Has Tor somehow cracked the novella publishing profit space? Are they profitable?
There's been a lot of discourse about Tor and the novella category lately, and I should mention, not just Del Rey, also What Stalks the Deep by Tink Fisher is by Nightfire.
Which
not
is
by
Tor.
Yeah. Oh, it is?
Yeah, that's their horror. It's their horror imprint. Yeah.
Okay.
From the Tor.com horror imprint. Yeah.
All right. Then yeah. But I think they became known early for doing a lot of novellas. Correct. And really doing well with that category, and I think people just know to look there. I don't know if many of the digital magazines, whether audio or e-mags are just not doing as many novellas. I know there are indie presses doing novellas. I've read some really great indie press novellas, but it's harder for them to get the visibility, to get enough visibility to get nominations. So I don't know how to fix that problem.
I don't either. But my question remains, is Tor profitable? Like Tor.com.
I don't know that either.
Yeah, and if so, how profitable? If you know the answer at home, send me an email. I don't need, like, actual numbers. Like, just sort of confirmation, like, yes, it is making enough that it can justify its existence going forward. Because, like, it is owned by, a corporation owns it. So they're interested in making money on this. And so they must be making money in order to continue producing so many novellas and doing it. I mean, let's be fair. Tor.com and Nightfire make great. They publish great work. Full stop. So, anyway. Sorry.
Yep.
So, best novel. This is the biggest category, Trish.
So, this had 555 nominees, as opposed to Best Short Story, which had 549 nominees. So both of those are about twice the number of nominees as most of the other categories. And probably that's because they're the easiest things to find in your library or online for free, I suppose. Anyway, finalists are A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett. That's the sequel to The Tainted Cup, which won in its year. Death of the Author by Nnedi Okorafor. Shroud by Adrian Tchaikovsky, who it seems he's on the ballot at least once for the last 10 years or so.
Yeah.
The Everlasting by Alex Harrow. The Incandescent by Emily Tesh, who did some something glory. Paul will tell us. Anyway, she won a few years ago for some desperate glory. And The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson. I have read and reviewed 3 of these for Scifi and Fanty, and I thought they were all great, and I'm looking forward to reading the other 3.
I've read 0. So
you've had a very, very busy year.
I'm a little too busy, and it has affected my ability to read and find any time for things I like, which is unfortunate, but such is life. Hopefully, I'll be able to calm down. But yeah, but I have obviously read work by everyone except one person on this ballot, and interviewed 3 of them. So, in terms of a quality of these writers, these are great names. The only one I'm really not familiar with is Antonia Hodgson, excuse me. And I'm sure Antonia Hodgson is a great writer. I know nothing about their work. Sorry, Antonia Hodgson. But maybe one day I will fix that.
The Raven Scholar is her debut novel, and I read it and I loved it.
Okay, well, so then it's not my fault that I didn't know about their work yet.
No. Nope.
Fair enough.
This will be the first that a lot of people have heard of her, and I encourage people to read it.
A debut novel on the Hugo finalist list? Come on.
That was Emily Tesh. That was her a couple of years ago. Debut novel
Way
on
to
the
go.
Hugo list.
Really good,
so
guys. Really, really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
this is a really exciting ballot. I'm looking forward to experiencing just about everything on this ballot that I haven't already consumed. I mean, there were some things that I nominated that didn't make it on here, but that happens every year. But there were things that I nominated that did make it onto the ballot, so I'm happy about all that, but also happy to experience the new to me stuff.
Yeah. I think the big thing the takeaway that I would have here is I think in years past, I might have been more inclined to be like, wow, like, stuff that I wanted that I think should be there didn't get there, and stuff that I don't think should be there shouldn't. Like, at one point, that might have been more me, maybe not quite in that voice. I think right now, I'm just kind of in this mode where I just want people to be happy. You got on the ballot, you're going to get your little Hugo, little pin, and, you know, you're going to join history. You'll be a name in the history books for this. And some of you are going to win and some of you are going to lose, and maybe you'll win later and maybe you'll never win. And that's okay, because you got to join in the annals of the Hugo history. You get to be among all of these people who folks voted for, fans, right? Writers and fans and regular everyday Joes who just happen to like these genres nominated you and put you on these ballots. And you should be thankful. And when the statistics come out and we get to see the long lists, I hope folks will go check those other folks out too, because you never know. There could be some hidden gems in there you didn't know about. And, you know, read more if you can. I don't know. I'm rambling my way to just do good things in the world that involves putting word things inside your brain. Do it.
Absolutely. I will note that every year you can sign up for, I think, a virtual membership, and that lets you vote for the Hugo Awards, and that means you get the Hugo packet, which is just about every year a tremendous value. You usually get at least 20 books and tons more stories and things, and often it's more books. So maybe more like 40 books, depending on what they put in the best series category. Sometimes it's just excerpts, and it's not always every book, publishers make their own decisions about that. Generally not the actual authors, it's generally the publishers. But it's a great value.
Yeah.
I think it's like, I don't know, virtual membership is like $80, $90, something like that. But really good value for the money. And you get to participate in these fan awards.
Yeah.
And read a lot of good stuff.
Absolutely. I think the digital is like $50 or something. I can't remember exactly what it is, but that used to be the amount.
It's $50 to join the World Science Fiction Society, which you can upgrade to a virtual membership, which costs, I don't know, $30, $40 more than that, something like that.
$85 for the virtual online membership, which includes your WSFS membership as well. So there you go.
Right.
Yeah, so, not bad.
So,
All right.
Yeah. I mean, it's not nothing, but it's a really great value.
Very much so. All right, folks. Well, we did an impromptu episode, and so we're going to call it a night. So if you'd like to let us know what you thought, you can send us an email at skiffingfantasy@gmail.com, or if you are in our Discord via our Patreon, there is a show discussion and book and so on discussion channels for you to talk about those things. This show is on Blue Sky, Threads, Mastodon, YouTube, a whole bunch of other places. All of those links are at skiffingfantasy.com/skiffythings. You'll find all of our stuff there. We are live almost every Friday, 7 p.m. Central on twitch.tv/alphabetstream. So if you'd like to see the show live and interact with us in the audience, you can. And then if you have money that you don't need for things that are important, go to patreon.com/skiffingfantasy. $1 is the bare minimum, and it gets you all kinds of free stuff like podcasts and torture cinema polls, etc. And either way, whether you can afford to join the Patreon or not, if you could please tell folks about our show and review us on places like Apple Podcasts and so on, that would be super helpful to get more eyeballs on the show. We'd like to hear from more folks and make new friends. So there you go.
I guess we should thank our Patreon supporters, too. Let's see. On the list, we have Adam the Adventurous, a new supporter, so thank you, Adam. Andrea the Abiding, Cameron the Chthonic, Carolyn the Benevolent, Carrie the Divine, Chris the Candescent, Dan the Transient, Daniel the Cultured, David the Debonair, Erica the Esteemed, Jeff the Gracious, Joseph the Jovial, Juan, the Junctional, and KB the Kind, and
Karen the Kick-Ass, Kat the Kinematic, Matthew the Magnificent, Paul the Pious, Robert the Reliable, Robin the Bold, Ryan the Resilient, Sarah A. the Sensational, Sarah E. the Sublime, Sarah O. the Rapturous, we're still looking for the rest of those vowels, Stephen the Strange, Tari the Thorough, Tanya the Triumphant, Trish the Imperturbable. I am at ShaunDuke.net, and if you put /Duke things on it, you'll find all my socials and YouTube and all that kind of stuff. And then I'm also at the Alphabet Streams channel, Wednesdays, Sundays, 6 p.m. Central, for games and other shenanigans if you'd like to come see that.
You can find me, Trish Matson, on the Skiffy and Fanty blog. You can find me occasionally on my own blog, whatsthewordnow.blogspot.com. Most often on Blue Sky at P.E. Matson, and also on Mastodon at TrishEM at newsy.social.
Excellent.
Right.
Skiffy and Fanty bylaws require me to make it happy. And so since I told you to read books earlier, here are 2 that you can read. Do it or else.
Do it or read something else, too.
And on that note, happy ending and scene. Or hopeful ending. Hopeful ending and scene.
Hopeful ending. Take care of yourselves and each other.